Good evening, very warm welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup here on the channel, looking at all things West Yorkshire football. I'm Chris Bell, tonight I'm joined as ever by Gareth Walker, Stephen Downes and Dave Foy. Jayson Boocker is going to join us a little bit later on as well, hopefully, to talk all things Leeds United. First things first, how are we all doing, gents? Are we well?
Yeah, good.
Fine.
You should have introduced the fact that Jay's going to talk about not Leeds, but more about referees. But apart from that, yeah.
We don't have time for him to talk about referees, otherwise we'll be here until next Thursday. Yeah, are we all good then? A mixed bag, I think it's fair to say, results-wise, across your respective sides over the course of the weekend. A win, a loss, and a draw between the three of you, I think.
Might as well have been a loss for me. So it was really a win and two losses.
Ours was a really good win.
Dave says as he wanders off.
Good reason he wandered off. Eddie keeps blurring in and out, so I've took him off.
We will come on to Halifax a little bit later on. Don't forget, you can get your thoughts and views into us here on the channel in all the usual ways. Get your tweets in via X at WYorksFootball, or you can get in touch, of course, using the comments on YouTube or X as well as Facebook. Let's start then. The temptation to start with looking ahead to tomorrow night is killing me, but I won't. Instead, we'll start with Bradford City so Kaz can get his slightly depressive part out of the way. First, it was a really good travelling support for City on Saturday. Gaz, what was it, about 4,500? I think I'd seen something like that lines. And
yeah,
it's fair to say they were not rewarded.
4,600 City fans at Wigan. Most of them buoyed. All buoyed by the result, and not just the result, but the performance that we'd had at Port Vale last Wednesday night. And no, Port Vale, bottom of the league, and not particularly great, but we'd really played really well last Wednesday night. I went down to Port Vale. I think there were about 1,200 there. It was the second time that game had been rearranged, so I think the away end had diminished on each time it had been rearranged. There was a lot more if it had been on the Saturday, a lot more if it had been on the Tuesday night, and then obviously it was moved to the Wednesday because of Port Vale's cup exploits. And there were about 1,300 there, and we were fantastic at Port Vale. I know that it was a little bit of a case of what kind of Port Vale are going to turn up. We're going to get the side that had played so well against Bristol City and Sunderland, or we're going to get a sort of a shadow of them, an exhausted Port Vale, a Port Vale at the bottom of the league. And it probably was that Port Vale that turned up, but we really made the most of it and put in probably our best away performance that we've put in a long time. Could have had 5 or 6. We're absolutely dominant. Port Vale fans even said that despite how crap they are, they thought that we were the best side they'd seen at Vale Park this season, which was a real sort of compliment for us, considering what our away performances have been like. So everybody went to Wigan really buoyed up by it. And how well we'd been. And then the Wigan game, I wouldn't say that we were dreadful. I wouldn't say that we were as bad as we have been in some away performances in this calendar year. But it looked like two poor sides, really. I thought a draw would have been a fair result. The second goal comes totally against the run of plates. City are just camped in the Wigan half, although not creating that many chances. And the ball sort of gets played back to Jensen Metcalf, and he completely air kicks it. I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's a complete air kick, misses the ball, and Wigan go clean through and score totally against the run of play. Like I say, and at 2-0, it's game over. Up to that point, it had been fairly even. The first goal comes from what Alexander described as not getting the press right, which he seems to say quite a lot when we concede away from home. But yeah, what was a fairly even game ended up in a 2-0 defeat, and 4,600 fans going home disappointed.
I mean, look, at least you proved that at least one West Yorkshire side can go to Port Vale and get 3 points.
We'll come on to that, won't we?
I'm sure we will. But look, as you say, I mean, I guess in Wigan, it's a strange one because they certainly have picked up some results in recent weeks since Gary Caldwell's got in there, of course, having left Exeter to take over. I mean, as you said, it wasn't a game in which you were outclassed by any stretch, but certainly you see those shoots improvements from Wigan that kind of just made things made life difficult for City.
Yeah, possibly. They were very what's the word? Well, they were physical, but very sort of gritty, very determined. And like I said, there wasn't a lot in the game. It was a game of very few chances, and they just happened to take probably two. They maybe only had three in the whole game, and they took two of them. City probably created a similar amount, despite having a lot more of the ball and territory, and didn't take any of them. It was just one of them, Chris. I think the talking point that came out of it from a City perspective mainly was that criticised quite a lot for changing a winning team, particularly in away games, and City fans have got on his back about it and said, "Well, we see when we see this a winning team changed, and we see the starting lineup, we know that we're onto a tough afternoon when we see that." So what he actually did after the Port Vale game was quite noticeable, that he kept a winning team and he stuck with the same 11. Which has been sort of against his principles over the last couple of years, really, where he's made changes game by game to protect players. And it says that he's learned from previous jobs and situations where players have picked up muscle injuries by playing games back to back, and the high press and very physical output that we have. So he's changed things. And on Saturday he didn't. He kept a winning lineup, and lo and behold, you had City fans on social media when we're 1-0 down, and even more when we're 2-0 down, giving it, "Oh, well, maybe he should have rested a few players." You just can't do right for doing wrong. So these are probably some of the same fans that were moaning, saying that he was changing a winning team too much. He did actually come out and say afterwards, he was asked about it because it was noticeable that he'd kept a winning team. Jamie Rayner asked him about it, and he said he'd had a discussion in the week with Chris Lucchetti, his assistant, and they decided that rather than making changes from the start of the game, they were going to make planned changes at half-time, which they did. He took the front three off. He took Sarcevic, Wheatley and Pointing off, and he brought on Swan, Humphreys and Mullin at half-time, which was the exact three changes that he'd made after an hour at Port Vale when we'd gone 2-0 up. He's just not going to be someone. It's not going to be a case of that we can flog the same 11 players until the end of the season, and he had to find a way around that. Unfortunately, it didn't work. But I think, like I say, that was largely due to a goal against the run of play, and Wigan just taking a couple of the chances when we didn't.
Let's kind of looking ahead then in terms of where you are in the table. It's still very much in those playoff places. You can look at the table there, fourth on 64 points, and we mentioned last week, it's still an 8-point cushion to those outside the playoffs, albeit goal difference separating Huddersfield and Stockport. And obviously tomorrow night is Mansfield, who sit themselves in mid-table in 15th.
Yeah, Mansfield are a funny one because we went to Mansfield on New Year's Day and put in possibly one of our three worst performances of the season. I think you two lads saw the other two, Huddersfield away and Lincoln away, and Mansfield away, probably the three worst performances we've put in this season. Mansfield was one of those games where we changed a winning side, made a lot of changes, and you worried when you saw the lineup. And Mansfield were largely deserving of their 3-0 victory that day. I was looking at their game on Saturday. I think they were 2-0. I can't remember who they were playing, but I remember noticing that they were 2-0 down, and they came back to draw 2-2 with a goal very, very late on in stoppage time. So they're no pushovers, Mansfield. They themselves have had a bit of a cup run this season, as we know. Nigel Clough, Wiley manager at League One level, like I said, turned us over at their place on New Year's Day. So we need to firstly bounce back from Saturday's away defeat, but also carry on where we've left off in previous home games. I keep coming on here saying our home form is what's keeping us going at the moment, keeping us in those playoff positions. We thought we'd turned the away form round with an improved performance at Reading and then a stellar performance and victory at Port Vale, but that wasn't the case. So there's clearly still work to be done there based on Saturday. So the pressure is constantly on our home performances and to get our results at home, and we need to make sure that we do that tomorrow night. Yeah,
I mean, it is that home form that has kind of kept you, I suppose, where you are, isn't it? And look, Valley Parade, I think you're right in thinking you might be sort of top or second top in terms of points taken at home this season?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe since the
Okay.
start of last season, we've taken more points at home than anybody else in the top 4 divisions. Our home form's phenomenal. It's remarkable, really, because on the pod in previous years, previous seasons, we've come on and said how the home form's held City back, and it's really been the opposite over these last 2 years under Alexander. It's been phenomenal what we've done at home. Funny thing is that we played Burton on Saturday. That's our away. We've also got Mansfield tomorrow night. We've got at home, and then we've got Burton away on Saturday. Burton are actually one of the only 2 teams that have beaten us at Valley Parade this season. We were turned over by Cardiff 2-1, and Burton also beat us 2-1. I think that was before Christmas, and Burton actually looked really well, particularly in the first half of that game. Tore us to shreds. Second half, we came back and perhaps could have had a draw out of the game, but Burton are a funny side. They're a side that I know that Downesy's spoken about the Town when Town played Burton earlier in the season. That very sort of physical side, very Gary Bowyer-esque side. So it'll be interesting to see whether we can avenge that defeat on Saturday, but also avenge the Mansfield defeat in the away game earlier this season. It's 2 defeats to avenge in the previous 2 encounters with these 2 teams.
Absolutely, just a couple of the we somehow picked up a Leyton Orient fan who thinks that as Northerners we should stick to pigeon racing, rugby league, and cricket. He says follow a proper team like Leyton Orient. Let me just double check that league table there, all the way down 19th. There we go. But thanks for joining us anyway. To be fair, he does speak some sense because he also said Huddersfield ain't going up. So fair enough. Thanks for your comments. Anyway, let's use that comment to segue over to Stephen Downes. He also made the point that you stick out a little bit because you're not wearing any glasses like the rest of us. Little does he know that you're the man that's registered blind, so glasses would be no use anyway.
Now, although I am getting some of those Meta glasses, I've shipped out for some of those, and we'll see. I might bring them on the podcast next week. You never know if
what are they supposed to do? I can't help but feel that they might be slightly wasted on you. I'm afraid, mate.
Well, they sort of audio read to you like menus and books and stuff like that, don't they? So although they're not prescription glasses, they're like, so you can ask, like, you can say Meta, what does it say on this menu, and it'll read the menu to me.
All right. I mean, to be fair, that'll be handy for a Huddersfield Town team sheet, if nothing else. So, fair play. Just before we do the deep dive onto Huddersfield Town, I'm going to bring in our Leeds United man, Jayson Boocker, who is going just in time, mate, to talk all things Huddersfield Town. How are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I can't wait for that, mate.
Fantastic.
All good, mate. All good. I've settled myself down after yesterday's rant. So hopefully we don't have to talk too much about officials today, but no doubt we will.
Fingers crossed. And Jay has his glasses on as well. There was an earlier comment about how Downesy's sticking out like a sore thumb because he's the only one without glasses. Little do they know that he's the blind one out of the 5 of us. So there we go. Downesy, let's talk Town as you did on Town Talk last night. And it was quite a good watch. I thought, to be honest.
Thanks.
I can't tune in after you've won games because it's just vomit-inducing for non-Town fans. But a point on the road.
Yeah, might as well have been a defeat. I honestly, I'm just bored of this season now. Can we just get to the end where we know that Town are going to finish 9th? Yeah, it was a very poor performance against what is the worst team in the division. We beat them somehow 5-0 at home a couple of months ago, and this time we could only muster 4 shots on the Port Vale goal. They've only scored 26 goals all season, and they've only got 15 points at home, and we have, let them have 1 point. It was just a disgusting performance, to be absolutely honest. And at the end, It ended with the Town players going over to the end where there was 1,500 Town fans that had travelled for it. And they got roundly told, "You're not fit to wear the shirt" at the end of the game. So all in all, it was a really positive day for the Terriers on Saturday.
It sounds it. I mean, look, first question, I suppose, is was it how much of the balance is a Port Town performance versus Port Vale having improved recently? Actually, the home form the form in general has been improved recently, especially with that cup run. And then just being a bit more stubborn than the league table suggested they should have been.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that, but at the end of the day, you know, Bradford went there. They had 33 shots on goal, beat them 2-0. We had 4 shots on goal and drew 0-0. Tells you everything that you need to know about the match, really. You know, it was they to be honest, at the end, they were the ones going for the winner. I mean, they looked like they wanted the 3 points more than what we did. We looked like that we were just sort of happy to play for the draw. Manning's comments yesterday, after the game, which we touched on yesterday, he said that the players left everything out on the pitch. He reiterated that comment today in the press conference before tomorrow's night game against a former non-league club. And yeah, overall it was... I didn't think that Manning got his comments right after the game. I know he's got to maybe protect the players, being,
Wow.
you know, I know he's got to protect the players after the game, but he spoke like a manager, like we've seen in the past with Town, and very much in the League Rantesque of not talking about the game actually as it went down, really, Chris. So fair play to Port Vale, but if you want to get out of this league, if you want to get out of this league, you need to go beat bottom of the table Port Vale.
Yeah, I mean
look at those stats.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, when you said 4 shots, I thought it meant 4 shots overall, which would have been terrible. It was 17 shots, but only the 4 on target. I think, to be fair, I think when Bradford had 33 shots, I think about 13 of theirs was on target. So it's all, you know, percentages. It's 33 shots is all well and good. But if half of them are aimed towards the freaking corner flag, then it doesn't really count as a shot, does it?
I don't. That's out of 17 shots, Chris. I don't remember 17 shots on goal. Genuinely, I do not remember 17 shots. I don't even remember 5.
I mean, well, there we go. It is what it is. It's one of those where, look, I mean, it leaves you, if I just bring up a slightly closer view of the top end of the table, it leaves you still in the playoff places. And this is the miraculous thing, I think, for Town. If you look at that form over the last 6, with Saturday's draw, 2 wins in the previous 5 before Saturday and 3 defeats, somehow Town do keep dropping points, and miraculously everyone else around them seems to drop points as well.
Honest to God, right? Genuinely, it is such a Huddersfield Town thing. We'll somehow stumble into the playoffs and win them. We will, honestly, but we won't. We won't finish in the playoffs because we're just not playing well enough. You know, the teams around us, I know that you've just said that they're dropping points, but, you know, Stockport, they can get a win. As we said last week, you know, Reading, Wickham, and even to some extent Plymouth, you know, but I can't believe it was still 6th.
It is mad, though, when you look at Saturday, and out of, between 3rd and 10th, only Stevenage were the only side to win on Saturday.
Yeah,
it's bonkers.
It is bonkers, and it's just mad. You know, look at our form there. You know, it's just mental that we're still somehow 6th. I don't really understand it. I mean, the only thing that I would say is, quite fortunately, that there are teams that have now caught up on games. I know Stevenage have still got 1 on us. Stockport have got 2 on us, but the majority of teams have now caught up on games with us.
Yeah.
So yeah. I suppose that is a good sign, you know, that somehow it's still in our hands, really. But
I think you said in midweek that some results had gone your way without Town actually playing as well, and it shows in the table, certainly.
Out of that top 7, 8 teams, sorry, out of that top 8, I would say we're the worst team.
Gaz?
What's interesting looking at that table is that besides Lincoln, I think it's Plymouth, nobody's won more than 3 out of the last 6, which is remarkable, really. And that's why the table's not really changing. Everybody's win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. You look at everyone else in that top 12, the win, lose, win, lose, win, or obviously or draw thrown in, but they're only winning half the games apart from Lincoln and Plymouth. Huddersfield, I know Downes is saying obviously the performance was poor and they should have gone to Port Vale and won, but in the grand scheme of things, they've gained a point on us on Saturday. So the fact is that nobody's grasping it apart from Lincoln. Obviously, Cardiff look up as well, but nobody's grasping those playoff places apart from, well, nobody is. Nobody's running away with a playoff place. It's remarkable, really. Stevenage obviously have the game in hand, and County have 2. I expect Stockport County to obviously cement a place in that top 6 eventually. They have had a sticky run lately, but they will have a reset after that Lincoln defeat on Saturday, I think. And with a couple of games in hand, you'd imagine that they'll force their way back into that top 6.
We've talked about it before as well. There's still a lot of those top 10 sides that still have to play each other as well. Like Bolton have still got to play, I think it's like 5 of the top 6.
Yeah, they do.
I know Lincoln have still got to go. Obviously, we've got Huddersfield tomorrow. We've still got to go away to Stevenage. We've still got Wycombe at home.
Our next 5 games are horrific, absolutely horrific. I mean, we were saying I said a bold prediction yesterday on the podcast. I don't think we'll win another game. There's only one game that I think we can possibly win until the end of the season is maybe Leyton Orient, and I'm not only saying that because we've got Leyton Orient fan weirdly watching. Hello again, but I do think that the next possible win is, I think, mid-April when we play Leyton Orient. The next 5 games are horrific. I mean, tomorrow, I know we're going to touch on it. Please, can it be Wednesday? And we don't talk about it.
We'll come to it in a minute. A couple of comments. James, who's a Town fan, he says, with all due respect, Chris, can you still being so happy for one pod? It's difficult, mate. It's difficult not to be. He also then follows that up with, does Downsy think we will ever see a player with passion again?
Decide
for that for a start, and then try and give us an answer.
It's difficult, James. It's difficult at the moment. I mean, you would like to hope that there's a semblance of passion and pride that would somehow kick in and make sure we get a playoff place. But I'll be absolutely honest, mate. Even if we got the playoffs, I'd be absolutely crapping myself in the playoffs with the standard of sides that we're going to go up against. So who knows? I mean, we might sign one in the summer. You never know.
Do we still think that we're a better side than what we actually are?
You love to stick that one in, Jay, don't you?
I'm being serious. I'm being deadly serious. I'm like, there has to be kind of an acknowledgement at some point that maybe back-to-back seasons. I know you've improved in terms of actually the player profile on last season, but I still think you are where you should be. You're in and around that. The performances could be maybe a little bit better, but I think you're doing all right to be where you are. I think County have got a far better team than you. If anybody's performing, and they're below you, that's my point. So, sorry,
what I will say is there was a couple of comments that I saw coming from Town fans during Town Talk last night that kind of alluded that to a point and made reference to the fact that we've seen, obviously, Leadson coming from the Championship, Watwell coming from the Championship, and others, where they just actually have really, yes, they've got big reputations at Championship level, but they just have not performed. So you have to take players, certainly now at this stage of the season, you have to ignore what players have done previously in their reputations and say, actually, are these players as good as we thought they were when we signed them, I guess, Steve?
Yeah. And that is totally and utterly correct in that we're 10 games to go and the players have not played well enough with what they've done in the past, the reputations that we've signed them for. I think we'll always probably, me and Jay will disagree on this point, to be honest. But I do accept, obviously, your opinion. But it wasn't just Jay in the group. It was Chris and a few others, to be fair. But
yeah,
I
for
still
context, there was a few of us that kind of thought Town would be in that kind of 4th to 8th sort of brackets, in and around the playoffs, whether they make it or not, sort of thing.
But I still think, I still say that these players, you like to when you're signing Alfie May for 1.5 million, you've signed Joe Taylor and then inexplicably loaned him out to Wigan and he's gone and scored 8 goals for them. Which
you
is
preempted where I was going next, but
which is absolutely disgusting. You've got the likes of Murray Wallace, Jack Watmore, Ryan Ledson, Marcus Harness, all played at championship level. Lee Nichols played at championship level. So these players have played at maybe 100, 200 games at championship level. They should be good enough to play in this division. The quality of player is not the problem at Town. The problem at Town is the culture and mentality. And that's not just affected this squad, that's affected the last 4 squads that we've had. It's gone on for 6 seasons. The only one that's got a tune at these players and the past squad of players in recent times, in the last 5 seasons, is Neil Warnock.
Yeah.
Does that not say everything about the mentality and culture at the football club? And that's built from the top. That's built from the chairman, the CEO, the director of football, right through to the academy. It's just all wrong. So it's not the quality of player. It's the culture and mentality that's the issue.
I do agree with that. I'd also though attribute them qualities that you're talking about there to the individual and the player. So you need to make sure that you sign the right players, and that's not just attributes on the pitch; it's mental attributes as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So there's a reason these players are finding themselves at this stage of the career in League One, and that could be mental. It could be a more mental attribute factor rather than a physical in terms of actual, quality on the pitch. When to kind of out back to like Leeds times, I remember when we signed the likes of Paul Butler, Sean Gregan, a little bit further back in the Championship when we came down to League One level. The likes of Matt Heath, Neil Sullivan, Casper Ankergren when he was there. I'm kind of spitballing names of the right mental attributes, which then contribute towards the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Don't you just think though? And I know exactly what you mean and where you're going with this, but don't you just think this is slightly indicative of the game now compared to actually Leeds in League One in what was it, 2006, 7-ish? Like the mentality of football, I think now is completely different. I think also what you've got to look at as well with the players like Watmore, for example, and Harness is in the squads they were in at championship level, they were what you would class as a smaller piece of the jigsaw, I guess.
Yeah.
In dressing rooms, certainly in Harness's case, in dressing rooms that have been successful. In Watmore, in a dressing room that was a steady championship side at Preston.
But he played
and
at
now
Preston
they've kind of dropped to this level. They've been sold this project of being a side that is going to be challenging for promotion out of League One, but suddenly they've found themselves not being leaders in their previous squads and not being looked upon, shall we say, as being leaders with experience in their previous squads, to now being bigger fish in a League One club, let's be honest, that actually there is going to be a lot more spotlight on them and from the outside, because yes, they've played all these games at championship level, but they've played them in better sides, in more stable sides with better mentalities than what they ended up coming into with Huddersfield.
And that is fair comment that they have maybe playing players, in terms of Harness particularly, he didn't play a lot at the Premier League level when they got up from the Championship. However, but for the majority of their careers, he has played at Championship football. He should be going to Port Vale, the worst side in the league, a side that we beat 5-0 earlier in the season, against a side that's only scored 26 goals all season and only got 15 points at home all season. he and the rest of the team were abysmal. They were abysmal. I'm sorry, like, as a fan, whether we all agree with my opinion or not, I think there should be a standard at my football club that says, you know what? We are trying to get out of this division. We should be going to Port Vale and winning that game. And we had I don't think we had any intention of trying to win it. We hit the bar, yes. We had a couple more chances that could have gone in. Port Vale cleared one off the line. But we didn't look any semblance of a side that would be wanting to get promoted out of this league.
Is it any better than the Grant, Downer?
Is it any better under Manning? No. No, it's not any better because they play the same style of football. The same style of football, the same tactics, which is what we knew. We knew we were getting that anyway because that's what Bristol City and
Bristol
Norwich
City fans did warn of this.
Yeah, absolutely. That he plays the same exact style of football than what Lee Grant does. In fact, we've become attackingly worse. We scored more goals under Lee Grant than what we do under Liam Manning. The only difference is we don't concede as many. So we've retracted down the pitch. We're not as creative. We're not as hungry to attack, and that's why you couple stodgy football that's not good to watch, that doesn't score goals, that defensively still can leak goals, with all the expectation that there is, because that was set by the owner, it was set by the leadership. You've got rising season ticket prices that were hiked up to 20, 30, 40%. There's talk of season ticket prices going up by another 3-4% this time around. And we're going to be in the same position. The
mentality thing is really, really important because when you're recruiting players, I think Jay had touched on this before. You've got to look at that side as well as the other, but it's not just the mentality. It's finding leaders that will lead that mentality and enforce that mentality. So you might have a Harness, for example, who's played at championship level, but he's never been a leader. He's been led by other people in that dressing room to bring a performance out of him. You see it at Phil Parkinson and Graham Alexander are very, very similar in that City, in how they recruited that mentality. You need to have that mentality from the top. Graham Alexander will recruit, and Phil Parkinson was the same, in that they recruit players who have that mentality, but can also drag that out of other players within that squad and get them to follow. And if you don't have the leaders that you can follow and will lead with that mentality, then it's very easy for they're not sheep, but the rest of the players to just become lackadaisical or almost become almost coerced, if you know what I mean. And you might not need that many, but you need a small handful that will drag the standards up. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm getting at, lads?
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you 100%. But that's what we thought we were getting when we signed Ryan Ledson. Being Preston North End captain. That's what we thought when we were getting Murray Wallace back. That's what we thought we were getting with the likes of Jack Mockmore coming in. You know, Lyndon Gooch that had been at Sunderland, who is certainly an outspoken character, or seems to be. That's what we thought we were getting, Gaz. And we've got none of that. It's a mentality built on sand, mate. That's the most annoying thing. And it's just, you just know, like, turning up to games, you just know that we're just not going to put it in, or there's no backbone to the team. I mean, that was one of the things that made, when we went to the Premier League, I know I'm harping back here, under Wagner, so good, because he signed captains at sides that were in the German league, such as Chris Löwe, such as Hefele, such as Christopher Schindler, that were, I mean, you look at that spine of that team, it's one of the best spines that's been ever in the Championship. You might disagree with that, but to sign 7 captains and all playing your first team week in, week out, that's why we got promoted and what we did. But I still say, and I find this mental, right, when I think about this. The League One side that we had in 2012, right, technically is nowhere near this League One side in terms of ability on the football pitch. But I tell you what, it beat it hands down every week. Honestly. Peter Clark and the likes of Callum Woods, Alex Smithies, Damien Johnson, Tommy Miller, that side would tear this side to shreds for mentality and determination.
This is the difference, though, isn't it? It's a side that had run through brick walls compared to the side you've got now. Just want to come to a couple of the comments before we kind of turn our attentions to tomorrow night. Let me go with Jed. Tuned in from Australia. Underwhelming is an understatement. Where's it going wrong? Why? No Alfie May, no goals, and of course, Joe Taylor scoring for fun at another club. You couldn't write it. Let me just see what else we've got. Jed, we said last week we signed championship player who can't/haven't adapted to the rigours of League One, and we've employed managers who couldn't get a tune out of the Vienna boys choir.
I think Chris makes a really good point. Just on that previous point about not adapting to the rigours of League One, I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to their importance at championship level. A lot of them were bit parts of Watmore, a little bit of a different one, but especially think of Harness as that. He was never a good championship player. There's this kind of like if he was, he'd have got another decent championship move, and there's a reason that he ended up in League One this season, and that's because he's a League One level player really that was playing up at championship level. Ledson's probably a little bit different to that, but again, the how integral he was in that Preston side is different to how integral he now needs to be in this Town side. So I don't think it's the fact that they've not dealt with the rigours. I just think that the expectation of the player was higher than what it should have been.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And then the other thing from Jed as well, are we League One snobs that think we are better than the rest? Now, let's carefully let Gaz answer that one first. Are Huddersfield League One snobs that think they're better than the rest?
It's just... have to be really careful here, Anna, because it's just it comes down to expectation at the end of the day. We had this when we were in League Two, where you think that because you've been the size of the club and you've been where you have in the recent past, that you should be storming the division and coming straight back up. And I speak from first-hand experience, like I say, because City had this for years in League Two, and there's I think me and Downes have spoken about this before, that there's parallels between that and what Town are now in League One and where their expectations are and where they think they should be. So maybe there is an element of that. But when you've gone and spent the money that Town have and put the budget together that they've had, then that all that does is feed that expectation. So it's very difficult to lay blame at supporters for that. When like I said, that what's coming from the club is feeding it. So maybe there is an element of that. And delusions of grandeur, you may call it. Some might call it, but yeah, it's difficult because the budget has backed up those expectations and has fueled those expectations. The words that have come from the club have obviously fed into that. So it's very, very difficult to level to say that they shouldn't have that opinion.
Steve, are you League One snobs that perhaps should be just doing better than you are?
I mean, I know what Jed's getting at. But I think when the owner's coming out and saying top two or nothing's good enough, and then you're seeing the likes of whether you agree with the standard of play that we've signed, but when they built up and said that they've played so many championship games, played in the Premier League, and you look into the careers of those players, you expect to be doing better than what we're doing.
Is this more down to poor recruitment then, Steve? So, like the fact that, like on the face of it, to the casual fan, signing these players as if they're on Football Manager would be great signings, right? But in terms of what Huddersfield actually need to achieve their actual goals, they're just not the right players.
No, because because they haven't looked. Well, firstly, they haven't looked into the injury records of these players, and they also haven't looked into the mentality, have they, Jay? That's And that's fair comment. Yes, it is down to the recruitment team. But let's be honest, the recruitment team's been shocking for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because there's no structure. There's no structure, and there's no culture, and there's nothing to build from. There's a reason why sides are successful, because they're built from the ground up. They're built properly. There is a culture in place within the recruitment side. There's a reason why Town are not being successful, because they're into culture that's been built there. It's all built on sand.
I want to touch on a comment from James, and it kind of touches in with the injury records. I'm not going to put it up because of swearing it, but still, I'm going to skip that a little bit. He says it's bargain buys like Reece Healy that have set us back. Yeah, and I'm scared the Shed are turning on the ownership now, and it's poison. I mean, look,
$3 million for Reece Healy. Just want to put that out there. $3 million.
I've never heard of him.
Where is he? Didn't he go on loan? Didn't he go on loan to Barrow?
He went on loan to Barrow and he played one game and got injured. He's been at the club 3 years. He's played, I don't think, even maybe 12, 13 games. I'd have to look.
I'm going to Google it.
So is he back at Town now on the treatment table again?
Yeah. He's just spent the entire 3 seasons. We bought him from, I think, Toulouse, and we paid
$3.
Yeah, sorry, but he had played in France. And we paid Watford $2 million for him. $2 million. How many games he played, Chris?
He's played 20 games and scored 4 goals.
Games.
The weird thing with Reece Healy is there was a time when he wasn't a crock, and you can see why Watford signed him. So, for example, at Toulouse, in 3 years, he played 69 games and scored 37 goals. For Watford, he was there for 1 season, 11 games, 2 goals, and obviously this is when the injuries have started to set in. And then obviously Town have taken a peculiar gamble based on his goal-scoring record at Toulouse, I guess.
Yeah. Basically, it was when Cartwright was in charge of recruitment, so it tells you everything that you need to know. But yeah, we've had Reece Healy. I mean, I like Miller at left back, but he's been injured. We bought Sean Rowan from Lincoln, right? He played 47 games for Lincoln. Never missed a game all season. Cup games, the rest of it. Didn't miss a game. Come to Town, gets injured. Lasse Sorensen, bought from Lincoln, hardly ever missed a game. Comes to Town, gets injured. It's just a standard thing with Town. We just buy we buy players that are either crocked already, and then we just think we can magically turn them round, or we buy players who are not crocked that we think are going to be really good, and then they end up being injured. Jack Watmore, same. Played about 3-4 games all season.
If that's a recurring thing, you've got to start to wonder how is that happening? Like we had it at City, we signed Abu Issa from Scunthorpe a couple of years ago, and he played like every game for like 2 years, and then he came to City and he just was injured for his whole time at City. A one-off you can kind of excuse, but when it's happening all the time, you've got to wonder what are they doing for these players to get, what are they doing differently at Town? That's why these players are getting injured when they were playing what you said, 46 games at Lincoln and never injured.
Sean Rowan, 46 games at Lincoln, never injured that season.
Played 200 games for us over 4 or 5 seasons or something, and barely ever missed a game. And obviously, Town has had a couple of
various injury problems. But yeah, it's not just this season at Town. It's been a problem for, like I said, the last 4 or 5 seasons, and it just gets boring because you just like, as supporters, we can't do anything. McGuane, the same, gets these injuries and then comes back. Honestly, I joked yesterday, he'll come back tomorrow and he'll get injured again. Radinho Boocker, the same, comes back, plays about 10 games, 14 games, something like that. We're thinking, do you know what? We might be getting somewhere that we've paid this 1.8 million for him. Gets a groin injury, another injury. So do you understand why it's so depressive?
Oh, I can. And look, to cheer you up, tomorrow you've got the Champions Elect coming to the Acu Stadium.
Look at how happy he is.
Non-league clubs done really well this year, I have to say.
Sitting 4 points clear at the top of the league, and he can't even show us the respect. Still has to call us non-league club.
Effective footballers work this season, I have to say. I think. Listen, we're going to get smashed tomorrow. It's going to be a very depressive day for me tomorrow. In fact, no, it won't, because I'm going for a nice time here before the game with my colleagues from work. So that'll be the highlight of my evening. Having some sort of lovely chicken on a bed of fantastic rice. So, we're going to get smashed tomorrow. And I think I said 3-1 on the podcast last night.
Jesus.
I think it'll be. It could be anywhere from 3-1 to 5-0 tomorrow. You'll absolutely demolish us.
Before you move off Town, I think it is worth just that comment that's coming from Jed about him letting Taylor go out on loan, because that was just absolutely obscene, wasn't it? You let him. You pay. What did you pay for him? £3 million. If supposedly didn't he fall out with Grant, and then you sent him? He got sent out on loan to Wigan, and then you sacked Grant like 2 days later, didn't you?
Yep.
That's just terrible. That's just terrible.
On the 3 million, it's just hang on. It's 1.5 million, but then it's add-ons if we got promoted. It rises. It's 3 million. But yeah, it is the package is 3 million. I'm just being pedantic.
It's the whole sort of.
It's mental.
The thing of like it falls out with Grant, so you send him out on loan, and then 2 days later you get rid of Grant, and he's banging him in at Wigan.
He scored 2 goals in a Town shirt. He's now scored 8 in a Wigan shirt.
Well, I was going to say, how are you both feeling about tomorrow night? But I think we kind of know how Downes is feeling. How are you feeling about tomorrow night, Chris?
To be fair,
This is a guy that still don't think they're promoted.
Well, that was my next question. Are you actually willing to admit that you're up yet?
Almost. To be fair, I genuinely, it would be so Lincoln, so typically Lincoln, to be on this unbeaten run, new club record, 20 unbeaten games in the league, to then go and lose at Huddersfield tomorrow. It would just be typical. Yeah, it would be so Lincoln. It's untrue, especially because of the fact of how, as we've heard from Dante, how poor and disappointing Town have been of late. Like, I wouldn't mind as much if Town had been flying and we lose to them tomorrow night. But it's just the fact that it sounds like Town are abysmal at the moment. And yeah, we're going well. To be fair, I did say, I think in the group chat, we beat Stockport on Saturday. Second half, though, we were absolutely shot. Like, Stockport had by far the majority of the second half. And then they equalised, and it's like we suddenly switched on and woke up again. But we looked so knackered. We've had to be fair, quite a hectic run of late with Saturdays and Tuesdays and long away games. I know the team, after the Cardiff game, for example, stayed down in Bristol before the Exeter game to save on some travelling and that. But yeah, look, what will be, will be.
What's your score prediction?
Well, I said last night, and this is bizarre because it's like that. My head says this should be a fairly standard Lincoln win. I think when I was watching Town Talk last night, I think it's a 3-1. But the problem is, my heart says, knowing my love for Lincoln, we're going to drop points. So I think my head says we're on this good run. Logically, we should go and win 3-1. But actually, my heart's saying we're going to drop points. It's going to be 1-1 draw.
Yeah,
I was looking at. Go on, Downsy.
We just know what'll happen by the end of the game. The worst bit for me is if I see Chris cheering in the away end. It's just my heart will just break.
I mean, look, last year I had that kind of mixed feeling because we were 2-0 up at half time last season, only to throw it away and draw 2 apiece at your place. So nothing's ever easy for Lincoln City at the ACU Stadium or the John Smith or the Alfred McAlpine back in Andy Booth's offside goal days.
You're top of the form table. You're unbeaten since November. I think you've won 5 out of the last. You won all 5 out of the last 5, conceding 1 goal. I've just looked this up. Town are mid-table in the form table. I think 2 played 5 out of the last 5. Won 2, lost 2, drawn 1. But your home form has been better under Manning than your away form, and it downs it. Is there any part of you at all that thinks you can get something tomorrow night against Lincoln?
Take the table away, Chris, and I'll answer Gaz's question. Gaz, no.
Should we leave it there, lads?
Put it succinctly and simply. No. Can we move on? Can we? Is it Wednesday already?
Are you both going? Are you both going tomorrow night?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going for a time meal before. So to be honest, I might just sleep through the game. Wish it if it never happens. I won't be in the WhatsApp chat Tuesday night anyway.
Are you going together? Because I know when you went to Lincoln, you both went together. You travelled together, didn't you? Are you meeting up tomorrow, or are you avoiding each other?
No, I'm not meeting Chris tomorrow. No.
I'd have been quite happy to have met up somewhere beforehand. That's all I'm saying. But Steve doesn't seem quite so keen.
I've got a meal booked. I've unfortunately got a meal booked with my work colleagues tomorrow before the match. So it just so happened that it was at the same time as the Lincoln game. Nothing to do with me, like.
I mean, just quick glance at some more of the comments. James says that I'm going down, and he's followed that up with saying that Town are going to win 8-0. Something's gone horribly wrong in our defensive record if we end up conceding 8. Jed says that Alfie May's fallen out with Liam Manning already.
He's playing tomorrow, Jed. He's back from his illness. He's taken some vitamins and he's back apparently. Tynex is good these days.
Jed also says it'll turn very toxic very quickly if we concede. And Jed also says, have I organised my tickets for next season at Elland Road? Not yet. I need to wait for Leeds to come down for that one to happen, Jed. But, you know. Look at Jake. Jed trying to reel him in.
No, I've got enough of that with Leeds fans.
I mean, Leeds fans aren't like Spurs fans. They're not seeing Lincoln away, LA just yet. So, let's see what tomorrow night brings. I guess Downesy may the best side on the night win.
Yep, well done on your victories, Chris. Well done, mate.
This is all setting up for Huddersfield when the way this podcast is done.
It is. But this is why.
Yeah, but I won't be gloating, Gaz. I won't be gloating even if we did win because we're still crap. So it's not like I'm going to be, Huddersfield, we're going to get promoted,
Honestly, I could see it. I could absolutely see Town getting something out of us tomorrow night just because football. The footballing gods aren't always this kind. They've been very kind to me this season. Something's got to give at some point.
Kind of glad I'm partially sighted at the moment with the way Town are playing. You can only see half at pitch.
There we go. Partial sightedness having its advantages sometimes. Let's move on. Let's turn our attentions to. Do we go up or down from here? Let's go to.
Do Jay last.
Oh, it's a bit mean, seeing as Jay has been here for far longer than normal. But I will go to Dave to touch on Halifax and the non-league side of things briefly before we touch on Leeds United. So, Dave. Halifax back to winning ways, and look, we said last weekend that you've been dropping.
Oh, and then he dropped himself.
That was beautiful.
So, hopefully that's going to be, as bad as what Lincoln are going to be tomorrow. Dave, if you just want to continue with Halifax, it's all right, Chris. I'll just do your job for you, Chris. I'll show some professionalism, Dave. Tell us about how Halifax Town are doing at the moment, my friend.
I think I'll try and just finish off what Chris was trying to say. He was saying we was sort of we'd had a bit of shaky form up to then, but this touches on what you and Gaz have just been talking about. We've got 2 leaders in the team at the back now, and we're starting to shore it up. Will Smith's thankfully back from another injury layoff, and I think it's a little bit biased, and I'll concede it's biased. I think we've made one of the shrewdest signings in this final run-in that we could have done in Ash Palmer from York. We're quite a young side, which I've touched on in the past.
Ex-County.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to get onto that. Obviously, he's ex-Stockport, but this is how we got him, Jace. Sam Walker, our assistant manager, played alongside him at Stockport County, so they're like friends. Chris will know him from Guiseley, I take it. You'd be familiar with him from Guiseley, albeit what would that have been, a decade ago-ish?
In that
kind of realm.
He's a top player. Top player.
Yeah, and he's in inverted commas surplus to requirements at York, but they're scoring 100 goals and they're going to get over 100 points. So who am I to argue? But yeah, I honestly feel that could be the shrewdest bit of business done at National League level in the top half of teams that are pushing for promotion. And it, like I say, it's what Gaz and Steve have just been talking about. Downes, we've got two leaders at the back now. I mean, Will Smith's captain in all but name. Like Sam Johnson's our official captain, but again, him and Palmer are two captain material. You know what I mean? They're well worthy of that title. And Saturday's game would have been a good game for a neutral. Obviously, it's difficult. I try and just step back and watch it as a neutral. I try and just take it in a little bit more. But I support Halifax Town, so I obviously want them to win. But I try and step back. And I mean, Boreham Wood are fourth for a reason. It almost feels silly. Some of the things I'm going to say, Boreham Wood are fourth. They're obviously a good team. We had Dylan Crowe, who's predominantly more of a right-sided player, filling in at left-back because we're missing Angelo Capello and Thierry Fairweather at the minute, and it was something that Boreham Wood exploited. They doubled up on that side, and they were having a lot of joy down it. Even in the first minute, they played that little ball in behind where it's to the right of the player. He kind of doesn't do anything with it, and their player runs round, and we're like, if this is what it's going to be like for the rest of the game, we're going to get pumped. But he can't really blame Dylan Crowe. He's been out for a while. He's just coming back from injury. He did struggle, but he's on the wrong side. But all in all, it was a good game. I think a neutral would have enjoyed that game. It was a game between two top teams, or two teams that you would know were top of their respective league. We took the lead through a great Josh Amami header, which is now his 15th from midfield for the season, which is, you know, since I've come on the show, or we've been the Football League show for, 2, 3, 4 seasons, I've always bemoaned the fact we just don't score enough goals. We didn't even have one player break double figures last season. I think we've got 3 now. We've certainly got 2. Great header, top right-hand corner. Their goalkeeper got a hand to it, couldn't keep it out. I've said about leaders at the back, the equaliser was easily avoidable, but all goals are scored by mistakes. If you look at it another way, they're all scored by mistakes. That is how goals are scored. You know, Boreham Wood equalised. For some reason, Will Smith found himself in the box, in the 6-yard box. They're sort of like a cross coming to the back post. They're sort of, what word am I looking for? They snatched it at clearing it straight onto Will Smith's foot, just slotted it into the bottom corner. Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm just full of like Will Smith, like Fresh Prince sort of references and stuff. I'm trying not to produce them because I think it's a bit obvious. It's a bit too predictable. You know, we've had players called Tom Baker and James Dean in the past. You know what I mean? It's water off a duck's back having a celebrity name in Halifax Town's team. Just something we like to do, baby. Second half, though, 90% of that second half was played in Halifax Town's half. Like, Boreham Wood had most of the possession, created most of the chances, but it wasn't a bombardment. Like, we played York at home earlier in the season, and we were holding on to a 1-0 lead, and it was literally they were bombarding us. They had a tricky winger, a number 10, Boreham Wood, whose name I can't just remember. They signed him permanently from Millwall, and he was incredibly tricky. So their equaliser, there he is, Mr. Abdul Malik.
Yeah, his name is Abdul Malik. Abdul's his first name as well as part of his surname.
As well. But yeah, he sat 2 Halifax Town players down out on the right wing, low crossing, equaliser. At 2-1 up, interestingly, I said to somebody, I said, even if we went 3-1 up, I wouldn't feel comfortable in this game. It was quite an open game. Obviously, with the equaliser and Boreham Wood more than pushing for the winner, it was a bit like we could do with taking a point here, really. But the goal we scored in the 86th minute, I mean, there was 6 minutes of injury time, so we'll call it the 80th minute, a great counter-attack. Ball in at defensive. Has anyone seen the goals?
I have not.
No, well, I'll describe it to you. It'd be a pleasure to describe it. Low ball out of defence into Billy Waters, who was right on the halfway line, right on the centre circle, took it on the half turn, first time ball round the corner for Owen Bray, who were running onto it. obviously the man come across, the Bournemouth man come across, so we had a lot to do, and I was like, please don't cut in Owen Bray because you're going to get caught here. He didn't, got to the edge of the 18-yard box out on the right, the left as I was looking at it, just slotted it straight past the goalie low and hard, and, you know, we went on to win that game. Crucial to this, though, was the introduction of David Cower, Billy Waters, and Owen Bray, all on the hour mark. They kept Will Harris very, very quiet. However, with Cower and Bray on either wing and Waters in the middle, it gave us a different dimension, a different type of outball. I mean, at first we were kicking it long for 5 minutes, and I'm like, Billy Waters is like 5'8". He's up against defenders that are 6 foot plus, you know what I mean? But as soon as it come into feet, it began to click. Luke Garrard at full time. I mean, he was speaking to their in-house media. Obviously, his audience is mainly going to be people from a Bournemouth, but he gave us no credit, really. As is understandable, he broke down their performance more than giving us any credit. He was a bit like, well, he basically, in a nutshell, was like, we're the better team. I'm not quite sure how we've won. However, he said at 2-2, yeah, we're still pressing. But then as the game goes on, you've got to think, we've come back from 2 goals down. We've come back from goals down twice. We've come back twice in the game. There has to come a point where you think, yeah, okay, well, we'll take 2-2. And he's like, we haven't dealt with it. And he gave us no credit for the goal. It was a really, really good goal on the counter-attack, you know. But you know what to expect. He's speaking to people that want to look at it from their point of view. Adam Lakeland was full of praise for his team. I think what Garrard missed was we were very, very gritty in that second half. We didn't just fall apart. We were solid, which again comes back to Will Smith and Ash Palmer marshalling the defence. I mean, like I said, they stifled Harris, they stifled Cody Johnson a little bit in midfield, but we didn't give up, and we won the game undeservedly. Don't get me wrong. I think at 2-2, I was like, yeah, I'd have taken a draw, but we deserve it for the goal and the endeavour to try and get that winner, and we got it. And it's just great. It's brilliant, and it's another week that's ticked by that's kept us in the top 7. You know, now, yeah, you know, I mean, you're looking at. There's 3 teams for one position. I'd say, I mean, Wealdstone, we'll talk a little bit more about their 5-1 win at Solihull, but I think Wealdstone down are kind of out of it. It's Hartlepool, Southend and Halifax for that 7th place. However, the mindset of our supporters now has switched to, if they don't book up their ideas, we could catch Forest Green. You know, we've got Scunthorpe this Saturday. We've beaten Boreham Wood.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Forest Green, as you see, their form of late has been stuttering at best. So if Halifax could find some form, and as you can see, Southend before their wins, they've won their previous 3 games. So it is certainly going to be shaping up for quite the interesting race for the playoffs. And Hartlepool, whilst they've got a game in hand, I guess, on Halifax, but obviously Southend played a couple of games more, aren't fully out of it yet, it's fair to say. But it's certainly, as I say, it puts Town in a good position going into the game. Let me see. No midweek game. It's a game on Saturday for you guys away at Solihull Moors.
Yeah, it's the 5:30 kickoff as well, so we'll have a better idea what everyone's done during the day with the 3 o'clock kickoffs. With Solihull, obviously, it's another matchup against Chris Millington. We played Solihull at home. I think he'd been at Solihull maybe a month, and we beat him 3-0. It was a game I weren't at, but if you win a game 3-0, you're not going to have performed poorly. I think we put him to. Well, Will Harris scored a hat-trick.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're just coming off the back of a 5-1 defeat. How are they going to react to that? You know, it's one that's put Wealdstone above them. I mean, I still think they're both out of it. But yeah, he's having a bit of a sticky patch at the minute. Is Chris Millington at Solihull, and we've got to hopefully take full advantage. I mean, our home form's almost like what we've been saying with Bradford. Our home form's very, very good. Like, we've already bettered our home points total now with, I think, 5 or 6 maybe 4 or 5 home games remaining. We've already gained, I think, 4 more points at home. But away from home, we had an excellent away record last season. We have to win every game away from home now to equal what we did last season. So our season's built on our home form, so we've got to hope we can go to Solihull and win. I'm more confident with Palmer and Smith at the back. And things are good. Obviously, we've still got Capello and Latty Fairweather to come back, among others. But yeah, the team's doing very well at the minute. And every week that goes by, they're still just keeping themselves in that top 7 position. I mean, if we finish 7th, we're going to have to play every game away from home to get to Wembley. We've had 3 terrible playoff runs in the last 4 or 5 seasons for various reasons, which I've covered in the past. But we should have beaten Forest Green at home. We had a goal disallowed away at Forest Green. Scunthorpe, I think, was quite an even game. You know what I mean? We've had 2 good games with Boreham Wood. Carlisle brushed us aside up there. You know, we've still got Scunthorpe and Carlisle. They're our next 2 home games. We've got Scunthorpe this coming Saturday, followed by Carlisle a week Tuesday. So we'll know where we are after those 2 games. Hopefully, still in the top 7.
Tell you what, though, Will Smith, you know, the way that he's performing for Halifax, it's giving town fans a chance of pursuit of happiness to get into the playoffs.
Yes.
Dear God.
But yeah. Yeah. I've got no answer to that, really.
Did Gaz just shake his head? That's not what
he did, yeah.
I thought I did well there.
I think we're all shaking our heads. I mean, Jed,
there's that.
Jed says it's amazing, Dave, with the budget that Town have got. Ian saying, look at Southend's goal difference, though. That's worth a point.
Yeah, it's worth a point or 2. That is one thing I ain't said, Ian. It's one thing I said in. I wrote the match preview for the website prior to Boreham Wood, and I did mention their goal difference is almost like an invisible point. Should it come down to we end up level on points. Of course, I said it on last week's show. Our final home game, albeit it's the one from final of the season, is Southend at home.
Yes.
It's a bit like Leeds having to go to West Ham. That'll probably decide something down the bottom end. I mean, I've got my fingers absolutely crossed for Tottenham to just not gain a point ever again and get relegated. I think it'd be hilarious. But the more I look at it, the more I think Ham and Leeds is going to be... That will have a huge factor in what happens at the lower end of the Premier League.
It's also going to be interesting factor in, obviously, we were touching on the fact that like Rochdale and York meet each other on the final day of the season as well for the top 2. I mean, the Leyton Orient fan says York and Carlisle will go up. If Carlisle go up, it's an absolute sodding travesty. They have been dire a lot of the games they've seen, despite being third. It's a peculiar one. And James, we think it's ridiculous. It's still only one automatic spot at this level still.
It requires the Football League to vote it in, though, I think. For 3 up, 3 down, I think the Football League have to agree, and they're never going to, because it'd be like turkeys voting for Christmas. It's just not going to happen.
The campaign is getting stronger, though. There's certainly a lot more this season about the 3 up campaign and trying to... there's certainly a lot more push and climb for it. And look, this season could be a real example. I mean, just to put the league table back up there. The fact that, you know, Rochdale on 91 points from 37 games, York on 89 points from 38 games. York have scored 100 goals, but obviously, I think the trajectory at the moment would see Rochdale finish on 113 and York finish on, I think it was about 109 or something. That had seen something work out on kind of the season so far. So it's absolutely bonkers, isn't it, that it's still only a 1-up automatically in the National League, Jay.
It's scandalous you could finish on that many points and then not go up. And not only that, but you could lose in a one-off knockout game to a team that's finished 50 points below you.
Which is what York did last season, Jess.
Yeah,
they lost to Oldham and they finished. But what York didn't factor in when they had the meltdown last season, they got promoted to the National League by beating Fylde, who'd finished 20 points above them. So it's 6 and 2 threes. Everybody knows the rules when they come into this season.
The playoffs, I love the playoffs, and the playoffs shouldn't be. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of them being altered in the Championship. Maybe we could speak about that for a minute. I don't know, but
we can, because it's the same format as the National League.
Yeah, the situation that you find yourself in, where you know, like last season, Leeds and Burnley both finished on 100 points. You'd be looking at a situation where Burnley didn't go up because of a few goals. Like, it's nonsense.
And it's not the first time it's happened in the conference either. You look at like what happened when Wrexham and Stockport were up there, and were it Notts County and were it Notts County were up there as well. And this is like the second or third time this has happened at this level.
Wrexham went up with something like 112, but Notts County got 109. and Notts County still needed a penalty shootout at Wembley to go up.
Yeah.
And that guy that were right high up, I can't remember his name, did a Panenka penalty, and he either scored or missed.
No, that was for Notts County. It was the the midfielder that used to play for Spurs and Palace.
That's him. John Bostock.
Yeah,
John Bostock. Yeah.
But I mean, we can go back 15 years. Kidderminster Harriers finished second one season, and they got something like 92. I think it was when Mansfield went up.
Yes.
You know, and then they lost.
I think I met him last season as well, like in the National League North. And I'll just bring up, I don't know his name. My name is what, but he's a Leyton Orient fan anyway. He says, how many teams get promoted from the National League North and South? It's the same format. It's an automatic and then the same playoff format because, again, I think he said last week when Guiseley finished second on like 90-odd points and were beaten because Chester, I think, won the league on 103, like in 2012 or 2013 or something, and then lost in the playoffs. It's just that nature of the beast. Jay, I want to touch on these playoffs. Sorry, I just want to touch on this change to the Championship playoffs because now you brought it up, it is worth touching on. Is the format staying exactly the same as the National League or not? So the National League format it's one leg all the way. So 7th place 4th, 5th place 6th in one leg at the highest standing team, and then the winners of those play second. The sides with second at home and third at home, and again, it's just the one leg. Now, if I'm right in thinking, the Championship are making the two semi-finals still home and away legs, aren't they? What are they doing with the first game?
I'm pretty sure that 7th versus 8th. I think that's what happened, right? 7th play 8th at the 7th place ground in a one-off game, and then then. That
doesn't sound right, Jace. It must be 4th against 7th and 4th at home advantage. And then 5th place 6th.
It's definitely 7th and 8th. It's definitely 7th and 8th, isn't it?
Why are they messing with it?
It'll be, hang on for a second.
Let me have a quick look.
4th. So it'll be 5th would play 8th and 6th would play 7th.
It's just ridiculous.
This is what's ridiculous.
Oh,
like,
right,
talking about this.
I
get
it now.
You've got the situation we've just talked about where teams are getting 100 points and not going up. And then they're changing it to mean that someone who finished 8th could go up. It's like it's just absolutely ridiculous, really, that it's going that way. And it goes to the point that like we kind of touched on before, where the playoffs, everybody loves them unless you're playing in them, because when you're playing in them, they're just they're so stressful. But for a neutral to watch them, they're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, right, whoever finished 8th in the Premier League, I don't know who's 8th right now, but even if they went up,
Everton, I think, Oh, in the Championship, sorry.
In the Championship, yeah. Whoever's finishing 8th in the Championship, and say if they went up,
right now,
they're just gonna get mullered every week in the Premier League, like mullered.
Well, if you to take the season as it is right now, and I appreciate we're digressing, we do this sometimes. If you were to take it right now, 5th placed Hull would play 8th placed Derby, 6th placed Wrexham would play 7th placed Southampton.
Yeah, and then they would play 3rd and 4th.
The winners of those would be presumably away in. Well, actually, I'm guessing the Championship is 2 legs. They'll be at home in the first legs against 3rd place Ipswich and 4th place Millwall, respectively. But as you say, I mean,
so 8th place Derby County, Paul Warnes. Is it Paul? Oh no, it's John Eustace.
No, John Eustace.
It's John Eustace as Derby County. I'm sorry, like that squad is not good enough to go to the Premier League.
In this year's Championship, it actually makes more sense than it ever will ever again, because the top 10 of the Championship is so Championships. It's untrue. But what Downes is saying is right in most cases, because like last season as an example, or the season before, I mean, take the season before as an example, when we finished 3rd, we'd have ended up playing, I don't know, Stoke or something with the team that we had.
Probably wouldn't even that. Yeah.
It's just, and I bet in that scenario, I bet you beat Stoke maybe 3-4 now during the season.
We got beat 4-0 off Oldham.
It just makes absolutely no sense.
We beat Norwich 4-0 in the second leg in that season.
What is wrong with the system now? What is wrong with the system now? Where you play third place fifth, fourth place sixth, and it's just done.
No,
it's a revenue grab. It's money. It's all about money. More games, more money. That's why they're doing it.
It rewards you for playing. It rewards you for finishing higher up because you guarantee yourself a home game. That's the only reward. So if you finish third or fourth, you're going to be at home, and you only need to win one tie to get to Wembley. But it tends to bite teams on the arse because the ones that are in the eliminator have that extra game to get the legs going again. Whereas you finish second, you have to wait 2-3 weeks for the season to end, and you sort of hit cold, which is what Oldham did to York last year.
The devil's advocate to it, Dave, though, is that it gives more teams more to play for longer.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
In the Championship, because of the spread of the points, you will be finding a situation where teams, there's not going to be that many teams that have got nothing to play for because they're going to still be able to get 8th and they're going to still be fighting off relegation. That's the biggest point.
This is going to sound mental because I am in the camp of not changing it at Championship level. But what I would say is actually at National League level, I feel like it's worked well.
I feel it worked.
I actually, and like now I'm used to it, I actually really enjoy it at National League level. But I still, despite the fact that I know how this system works at that level, I still can't quite get my head around changing that at Championship level, if that makes sense.
But I'm not being funny, right? So even if we're taking Halifax as an example, if Halifax went into League Two, the bottom of League Two is so dire, right, that Halifax would have a good chance of staying in League Two.
We'd stay up, without that. If we got promoted, we'd stay up. We won't come straight down. My point is, 7th in the National League isn't really any difference to the bottom 5 of League Two. There's a massive difference between John Eustace's Derby going into the Premier League.
I would say, I agree completely with that. I think there is a far greater gap between John Eustace's Derby that currently sit 8th in the Championship and Wolves who sit bottom of the Prem. I think the gap between those two is far greater than the gap at Leeds International level.
Look at how we've blown away the Championship teams this season, really. Norwich have been on really good run. They had 9 wins in 11 going into our game. A lot of Norwich fans were getting really excited that they could cause a cup upset. We turned it on for 20 minutes of the first half and blew them away. The game was so one-sided, really. 1-3-0. We beat Derby 3-1 away earlier on in the season. Birmingham ran us a little bit closer, but St Andrews is a difficult place to go. They've got the wind up and whatnot, and we still came through that game and really should have won in normal time. It took a deflected last-minute equaliser to take us to pens. So Downes is spot on. He's spot on. The gap is absolutely massive at the top, between the top of the Championship and the Premier League.
Let's move on. As I say, we have digressed. Just checking the comments. 2 seconds. James says he gets it. Gives interest to our teams, doesn't it? I don't like. What I don't like is it probably just means more money to average players. And then my name says Orient won National League in 2019 with 89 points. Don't seem that many considering what other winners' tallies have. That's also a fair point, certainly recently since Orient went up 7 years ago. Let's kind of use this Championship playoff discussion and Jay's point about Leeds blowing Championship teams away to nicely segue into our final little bit of the show, looking at Leeds United. And Jay, we're going to try and focus on the match and not the man in the middle. A point on the road that, look, I spoke to you just before you did your review show with Brown yesterday. And look, it's a point that beforehand you probably would have taken on the road at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, it isn't it in. I think a lot of Leeds fans wouldn't have taken a point. I'm a little bit more in the Farker camp, and I like his mindset with regards to the way that he looks at approaching games. And I think any away point in the Premier League is a really good point. We've proven pretty difficult to beat away from home, even though we've not been winning games as of recently. I think we've now drawn 7 of the last 9 away games, which is pretty staggering, really. But it is still 7 more points. We were just losing every game away from home before that. So it's not bad. It's not bad. And considering the way that the game went, and you're not going to be able to get me off talking about the man in the middle completely because he completely ruined the game and completely completely stiffed us. Considering the way that the game went, a point was good, and we were good value for it as well. If anything, in the second half, we performed extremely well. We're the first team since Opta stats have begun in 2006 to not face a shot on target in a game in which we spent the whole second half down to 10 men, which says a lot about the way that we played and how organised we were and how, you know, difficult we were to break down. 10 men to not face a shot away from home in the second half is pretty impressive. A shot on target, that is, sorry. So, yeah, there were lots to like, but at the minute, we not stumbling over the line, because I think we're playing better than that, but we are really having to dig in for every single Premier League point. And it doesn't make it easy to enjoy, because the quicker we can kind of get 6 points on the board, the more we can just enjoy an FA Cup run and, you know, kind of see the season out in a good fashion. Muted, mate.
There we go. Yeah, the quicker you get some points, the less you have to worry about the prospects of Lincoln away next season.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not super stressed by the thought of relegation. I'm more stressed by the idea of the slowing down of the progression. You know, establishing ourselves this season is massive for what can then come over the next 2, 3, 4 years and beyond. You know, it does set us back, obviously, and it makes it then even harder to stay up the next time. And I think for any Premier League team that is trying to establish themselves right now, you couldn't have fallen on a better time. Not so much this season, but I'm talking next season, because you know, Middlesbrough, Coventry, Wrexham, Hull, Millwall, they're going to find it extremely difficult to stay up next season. Extremely difficult to stay up. So I'd want to be part of that, because I finished in 17th is going to be as easy as it probably was last season for Spurs. So, you know, whereas right now we're mixing it with Wolves, who have already gone, and then Spurs, Forest and West Ham. And, you know, West Ham and Spurs especially are really established Premier League teams. And Forest have obviously thrown so much money at it. They've got so much quality within that team. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. But I think we've shown ourselves to be a decent handful. I think we've done a good job.
Can we just clip that? Can we just clip that for future episode when we get to the end of next season and Leeds are 18th in the Premier League and Coventry's above them?
Can you imagine? So when Leeds are 18th in the Premier League, and yet Coventry, Middlesbrough, and John Eustace's Derby are somehow all sitting above them, and below them is like Everton and Brentford.
Yeah, we just need to clip this. Just clip this.
It just won't happen, thankfully, because the gap is just so big. But and we're a different version to what we were when we came up under Victor Orta and Radrizzani. The club is ran differently. The recruitment's different. I've got a lot of confidence in the way that the club can go. But at the minute, we obviously have to lay punches on these bigger teams. I mean, the fact that we're 2 points ahead of Spurs going into the last 8 games, even though no Spurs are dreadful, it shows what a good job that we have done. You know, so we're nearly there. We are nearly there.
Jed making the comment there, looking like the best finish to a relegation race in years. And to be fair, I don't think he's wrong there at all.
Yeah. It's probably going to be the best one since we stayed up the last time when we beat Brentford on the last day of the season, and we overturned a deficit to Burnley, and Burnley went down there, lost against Newcastle. It's going to be better than that one because there's going to be more teams involved by the looks of it. There's so many kind of narratives about this season. You know, Wolves have obviously had the collapse that they've had, but then you look more at the likes of West Ham, massively out of place, really. Forest, probably massively out of place. Spurs, hugely out of place. And then kind of us ruffling all the feathers, because really, if it had gone on other seasons, either us or Sunderland would have occupied 18th on around 21, 22 points. And even though they'd have had bad seasons, they wouldn't have been worried.
Be amazing if Spurs went down. Like, not amazing in terms of, like, I really want them to go down, but I find it absolutely speechless that a club that size can get relegated. I just wish it was Man United. Yeah, Premier League absolutely does. Like, I just wish it was Man United and not Spurs, to be honest.
Well,
I think Spurs are so bad. I think they're so bad, and I genuinely think there's a real possibility that they can go down. I don't think they're going to pick up very many points between now and the end of the season. I think what will save them will be one of the other three not picking up enough points. It won't be Spurs picking up loads. They will finish on between 36 and 39 points, I think. And
Nuno's got West Ham going. No, he has got them going now.
I still think West Ham are flattering a little. They're all right, but again,
picking up a point like they did on Saturday. I know City were underwhelming on Saturday, but for them to take a point out of a game like they did, having been quite out of it statistically at least, I think he's
one shot.
A good indictment though of the fact that he has got certainly spirit and unity in that camp that wasn't there before.
He's definitely done that.
Technical ability.
He has definitely done that, and he's definitely made them more disciplined and difficult to beat. But I don't know. I know Lou kind of follows the same pattern with me with West Ham, but they had one shot against City, one shot over the whole 90 minutes or 90 plus minutes.
I just want to
I just want to pick up that it was me originally months and months ago who said how bad West Ham were as a squad. Like I was adamant how crap West Ham are as a squad. I think Leeds have got a far better squad than West Ham. I still believe it now. What I would say though is Nuno. It shows how good a manager he can be when he gets. Because I thought West Ham were dead and buried, and somehow he's risen them from the dead and being able to get to the point where they are now.
I thought he'd get them going quicker than he did if he would. It seemed to take a while to get them going, and there were obviously rumours that he was going to be booted, not long after he'd been appointed, that they were going to get rid. I honestly thought when they lost at home to Forest, didn't they? Can't remember when now, but I thought they were gone at that point. I thought that's it. Then they're not coming back from that. So the turnaround he's managed to get out of them since then is pretty impressive.
Downes did say that, and I do think it was kind of fair to have that opinion. But I still see it that Nuno's great, and he has got a lot about him. But they've been able to turn the corner because of the quality of the players that they've got. Even though I really love what Leeds are about, and the kind of camaraderie. I think we're a team that are far better than the sum of its parts. I think that's kind of how I would describe us. We've got a lot of industrial players. If you forced me to decide whether I wanted our team right now for the rest of the season or West Ham's, and I'm starting on the 32 points that Leeds have got, I'd take West Ham's because they've got game winners. They've got Chris Somerville. They've got Jared Bowen. They've just got. I watch my team every week, and I know how difficult we find it to be able to win games. We really have to work so hard to compete because we've not got the quality. You look at some of their players with Fernandez as an example in the midfield as opposed to Ilya Gruev. It's chalk and I know Anton Stack's great, and I know we have got some good players within the team, but we are far more about the whole unit that kind of bridges that gap.
I still don't rate West Ham squad, and that's just me. I think Bowen's a great player. I think Somerville is a good player on his day. I think like you mentioned, Fernandez is a good player.
Tabido, Disasi,
Wan-Bissaka. And it's only my opinion. But
Wan-Bissaka is better than Jayden Bogle. I'm sorry, but he is. So this is where you're making these direct. And I know Bogle's had a particularly good season, but this is where you make those direct comparisons. And the ability of that West Ham squad, man for man, is better than the ability of the Leeds squad.
I still don't rate it.
And probably, in contention with others.
I still don't rate it. The best squad in that bottom side is probably Forest, and they've underperformed. But
the 1 to 11 kind of conversations, I just have a hard time putting too many Leeds players in against any of them. I'm talking about the same players in every single conversation. I'd say Jacobiol has shown that he's really, really capable. Joe Rodon, from time to time this season, has been hit and miss. Anton Stack and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Gabby, Goodmanson, maybe, but I'm really going to struggle in 1 to 11s to not be mainly outweighing them by the other sides. Burnley, Wolves aside, and I'm going to say it, Sunderland. I think Sunderland are so poor. They're so out of position. It's untrue, man. Like, drives me mad that they are where they are. But yeah, the teams that are in and around us, Forest, Spurs, and West Ham, really, they're better than us. But I still think we'll finish on more points. So
yeah, your Sunderland is my Lincoln. That's what I'd say.
Couple of comments elsewhere. I'm going to ignore that disrespect. Jed making the point that Spurs versus Forest is coming weekend. He also says there's a couple of great Weatherspoons in Leeds. That there is. Starting next season, it doesn't look like I'll be getting Leeds away. I don't think. James, with the big question for you, Downs, would you rather see Leeds or Forest go down?
I'd rather see both clubs liquid. No, do you know what? Leeds deserve to stay up without they've battled. Honestly, I'd love Forest to come down. I'd love and for them to just dissipate back to being bottom of the Championship. That'd be fantastic to see. The cheating sods.
I do think, kind of to back onto what Downs had just said, that I think we deserve to stay up. I genuinely do think, and I'd say opposite if I didn't. I think we've done enough over the 30 games this season to already be on 35, 36, 37 points. Unfortunately, we've not got the points on the board. It means that we're still in this conversation, but I do really believe that we've done enough to stay up this season so far.
What a nice podcast this has been. Jay's agreed with me for quite a lot of it, to be honest.
I agree when you don't talk shit, mate. As simple as that.
Oh, now we've lost money. We've demonetized the stream. Well done, Jay. Normally Dave's job, that.
Currently in the Monday Night Football, it is currently Brentford 2, Wolves 2, with a little over 3 minutes of the 90 to go. And Jay, for Leeds next up, it is Brentford at home on Saturday in the late.
Yeah, I mean, we've got some seriously winnable home games, which is why nobody's really looking at us as one of the potential three. We've got Brentford at home, Brighton at home, we've got Burnley at home, and Wolves at home.
Yeah,
and that's just off the top of my head. I don't know if we've got one more home game, but we've also got winnable away games. We've got Spurs away, we've got West Ham away. As Dave mentioned, I personally don't think our fate will go down to the last game. I think it'll be done before then, but I think West Ham's will, which will then mean that game will mean something, as Dave was saying earlier. But yeah, I think Saturday's massive, and me and Brownie have been saying this for what seems like weeks now, but the earlier we can get that next 3 points on the board, the easier it will make it to then get the next 3 points.
This is what he said last week, Jess.
Yeah.
In fact, here's another thing you could factor in. It's highly unlikely either you or West Ham or both could play the FA Cup final the week before that league game as well, which would be crazy.
I mentioned it to Brownie that I didn't like the West Ham draw at all. It must be earlier than that though, because we're only in the quarters, and the final would be after the season finished. And West Ham away.
No, it's not. I think the FA Cup finals before the Premier League ends.
Yeah, it's
got to be earlier than that last game of the season, Dave. Because we play West Ham on the last Premier League game of the season, and there'd be the semi-finals and the final to sort out.
Oh, sorry. Do you mean there's another game before that game?
Yeah. There'd be games in between. It won't be back to back, but it still could make a significant difference, because I understand the mental kind of gymnastics that had become with that game. If we were to lose that game against West Ham, and does it give them the impetus to go on and overall us in the table? So I do think it's important, like we were just saying, about getting them 3 points on the board. I think we've got 2 games now before the international break. If we could try and pick up
one of them.
March 1. Yeah. 4 points in them 2 games would be absolutely huge. I think we're about 6 points off. I think 6 points does us. I don't know what you guys think.
Imagine my mental strain if Bradford go up, Lincoln go up as champions, Leeds stay up, and Leeds win the FA Cup, and Town fail to get in the playoffs.
Oh my God, Downes there.
I'll be honest. I can't help, but the best thing for everyone's mental health would be for Lincoln to go up as champions, Bradford to sneak second, Huddersfield to win the playoffs, and Leeds to come down. So that next season,
we don't need none of that.
So we're all in the same pot together in the championship, with all of us looking at this newly spotted 8th spot playoff place.
We don't need none of that.
Would you rather Rochdale or Lincoln go up?
No, my God.
Guys,
we could be here all day. We could be here all day with this, Dave. You know how many clubs they support?
And on that note, it's time to wrap up the show.
The thing is, with this 8th place playoff, Chris has got that many clubs that he won't know who to get in it.
One of each of his teams could face each other in playoffs.
Right, wrap it up, Christopher, because we're just going to keep taking the mick, mate. Wrap it up.
Just before we do, because I know we're all keen to get off. What point finish do you think will be needed for 17th in the Premier League?
2 seconds. Let me just bring that current table up when I find it. So that's where it is now. So with 8 games to go, I reckon you're looking at 38. 37.
I was going to say 37 or 38.
Yeah, 38.
He's trending at less than a point a game, innit? So between 36 and 38 is a smart prediction. I said 36 all season, which is way higher than what it has been more recently. But that then leaves us only needing 4 points, and I just don't believe.
You look at West Ham and Forest on 29 and think like 8 points from 8 games doesn't sound impossible for those sides to pick that up. It's only a couple of wins, a couple of draws, and 4 defeats. It's going to go to the wire. I really do think it is going to go to the absolute wire come the end of the season. Whoever is kind of in 17th and 18th on the final day.
Not that you can take everything from it, but Optastats have got us finishing, all 4 teams finishing between 38 and 42 points.
Bloody hell.
West Ham in 18th on 38, and then Leeds finishing 15th on 42. That's how the Optastats kind of based on the games that we've all got left to play have got us finishing, which tells you how tight it'll be come the end of the season. See, I don't think it'll be anywhere near 40. I've just seen James's comment there. I don't think it'll be anywhere. And I know I'm saying anywhere near and 36 and 40 being not that far apart. But in the grand scheme of things at this stage of the season, that's a massive world apart. I don't think 40 it'll be anywhere near 40. Personally.
It is going to be extremely interesting, I think, at the bottom end of the Premier League, which is frankly nice that there'll be something interesting to end at the end of the Premier League this season. We'll wrap it up there. We've done a good stint there, lads. We've had a really good viewership as well over the course of the evening. So a big thank you to everyone that has joined us, everyone that's commented as well. A lot of our usual followers and some new commenters as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Give us a follow on X. Just search for W Yorks Football. Search for the West Yorks Football Show on YouTube. Like and subscribe on the channel there as well. There'll be plenty of content to come over the course of the week. Myself and Downsy, you never know, depending on how tomorrow night goes, might try and do some review later in the week. There'll be a preview, I'm sure, between from Jay and Brownie looking ahead to the Brentford game at the weekend. So yeah, check out the social media and just keep an eye out and see what we've got coming up. But from myself, from Stephen Downes, Jayson Boocker, Dave Foy, and Gareth Walker, enjoy the rest of your Monday night. I'll be back very soon here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Good night.